This next one here will be a little bit different. We have the absolute value of 3 minus 2x. And we're going to say that that's going to be less than or equal to 5. So we go through the same old procedures. Just drop that absolute value sign and rewrite. Now remember, the inequality looks like the head of an arrow and it's pointing this time to the left. So we're going to use the word and. If it was pointing to the right, the R in right tells us that, or reminds us that we need to use the word or, because there's an R in or. Okay. So rewriting what's in the absolute value bars, and this time I'm going to flip the absolute value, flip the inequality, and then throw a negative out in the front. So now we've basically just have an equation, and we're just solving for x in this problem. So what I'm going to do is, because what am I going to do? You know what? I'll go ahead and take the 3 over to the right, and because it's a positive 3, when I take it over to this other side, it becomes a negative 3. So we have negative 2x is less than or equal to 5 minus 3. Now I'm going to simplify this down a little bit more, and that just becomes a 2 there. Now we got to get rid of this negative 2, and in order to do that, I think I'll use a different color. In order to do that, I'm going to multiply both sides by a negative half negative a half. So we have a negative a half times a negative 2. And a negative a half times negative 2 is 1. But we're not going to write 1 here. We're just going to write x. But we multiply through by a negative, and that's going to cause this inequality sign here to flip. Alright, so we're going to flip that. We have a 2 times a negative a half, so that's going to give us a negative 1. Okay, we're good on that. Let's look at this one. So I take the 3, I bring it over to the right, so we end up with negative 2x is greater than or equal to negative 5 minus 3. Now we're going to simplify this down a little bit. We have negative 2x is greater than or equal to negative 8. Now I'm going to multiply through by negative a half to both sides, just like I did here. And so we know that a negative a half times negative 2 is 1. So we're going to be left with just an x, but we have to flip this guy now because we're multiplying through by negative. It's the only time that you flip this inequality is when we're multiplying through by a negative. And so we have a negative 8 times a negative a half. And of course we've got to simplify that down. And so we're left with x is less than or equal to, and a negative times a negative is positive, and half of 8 is 4. Okay, so here's our two solutions. Now remember, we're using the word and up here, which you can barely see on the screen, I think. And so let's draw this out. X is greater than negative 1. Right, and here's a 4. X is less than or equal to 4. Right, and because we're using and, we're going to use brackets and everything in between negative 1 and 4.